Hi guys, welcome back to Ball's Fan TV, and today we're back with another video, and today I'm going to be doing my 2026 League of Ireland predictions. Yeah, it's that time of year again, where I'm probably not going to cover myself in much glory, but look, we're probably all going to get things wrong. It's a mad league. Anything can happen really. We've seen that before, so yeah, look, I'm gonna do the best I can to try and get as many right. But yeah, let's get straight into it. And yeah, the team that I have at the bottom of the league is a team that there seems to be quite a consensus building about this team being the favourites to go down, which isn't always a good sign really, because often what we think happens doesn't always happen. But the team that I do have at the bottom of the league are Galway United. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just been their business really, and the players that they've lost. You look at it here. Um, some okay signings, Matty Wolf. A player who didn't really feature much at Sligo, but it's still a solid player. Some that are kind of unknown. Fakierni's come in from Valor in Canada. Chris Twardek's come back to the league. Obviously a player that we know quite well. And look, I think Twardek is a player who, I think we all appreciate the fact that he worked very hard, and he is that kind of player who will always try his best. But I think there's only really so much you can get out of him. He's not a player known for his goals or his assists. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think that signing doesn't exactly fill you with not much confidence. They've also brought in Lee Devon from Treaty, who scored a lot of goals in the first division last year. Kazim, who was at the club previously, he's come back. Um, but it's about the outs really for Galway. The players that they've lost, Pat Hickey to ourselves, Asua to Sligo. They had a tough year last year as well, on and off the pitch. And yeah, I can just say being quite a struggle for them really, just looking at their recruitment and the players that they lost. So yeah, that's Galway at bottom. Moving on to ninth now in the playoff spot, I have last year's first division champions Dundalk. They're back in the Premier Division. After a season in the first division, which they won, like I said, and yeah, they've definitely gone down the experience route. When you look at their recruitment, you look at it here, they brought in some players who, are really, really experienced in the Premier Division. Rob Carwell and Keith Buckley from ourselves. I suppose the issue there is just about keeping them fit. The other signings that he brought in as well, Tehan from Kerry, Warren, Bobby Burns from Galway, which is a good signing. They've got a pretty young squad as well, so it's important for them to go and get that bit of experience. They've got some really good young players at the club. Owen Kenny, Vinnie Leonard. They also signed Danny Mullen from Derry, who has a record of getting goals in the league. So yeah, I think they've done some decent business. They're probably just not at the level to really push up any higher. It's always a struggle for the first division winners to come up into the Premier Division and adapt. So look, let's see what Dundalk can do. But I think they'd all be pretty happy down on Oriel Park. If it did come to a playoff, where they'd have a pretty good chance of staying up. So yeah, Dundalk in ninth. On to eighth place now, and I have Sligo Rovers. Yeah, look, I think Sligo are always a team who they always punch above their weight. They're always able to find a bit of a diamond in the rough in the window. And they had a pretty good year last year, staying up comfortably enough. And I think I would have put them higher had they not have lost Owen Elding in the last few days. I think that's obviously a major blow. He was their best player last season, terrorised us in Daily Mount a few times, and scored a few goals, one of them to knock us out the cup of course. So yeah, that's a massive loss. A few other players have left the club as well, Patrick McLean, and obviously they have McManus with us, or with them from us, during the summer, for the rest of the season. And then he's come back to us, and they managed to make the Ryan O'Kane signing permanent. The other players that he brought in, Alex Nolan from Cork, Asua, who we spoke about earlier, I think that's a good signing. Archie Meekins, of course, from ourselves, a player who I liked, just probably wasn't guaranteed the game time with us. So the fact that he's got himself another move in the Premier Division is very good. I think he'll do well at Sligo. Shane Blaney's returned to the club as well on loan. They signed Traore, a striker, on loan from Notts County. So yeah, a couple of good signings in there, but I think it's just the losses. It happens to Sligo every window, really, doesn't it? They do lose a lot of their best players quite often. But John Russell's a good manager. They're a club that are ran very well, and like we said, approach their business quite smartly. So yeah, I think it'll be a slight struggle at times, but I think they'll have enough to avoid a playoff. So moving on to seventh, and I have that position being filled by Waterford. Obviously under new leadership with John Daly taking charge. A tough year for them last year. Only staying up via the playoffs. Had to sack, two managers in the season. And Keith Long and John Coleman. But I do think they have built a pretty decent squad. I think they've made some good signings. They made the Conor Newland signing for permanent from Rovers. Connor Carthy's come in from Pats. Benny Coulthard from Cork. John Mahon, player who was, he's a solid defender, but he's had a lot of injuries recently. Luke Heaney, who was quite a regular at Drogheda, Hayden Kahn from Derry, Kane Barrett on loan from Shamrock Rovers, so some decent signings there. You still have Paul Jarmond, of course, as well, who signed a new contract recently. He'll get you goals, no doubt about that. Some losses in the defence. Darrell Lee, he went to Linfield. Ryan Burke went to ourselves. Midfielder Ollie Yinka went to Derry. He was a 20 player for them. Grant Horton left. So yeah, look, a few losses in the defence. They probably are looking a bit weaker there than they were last season, and they did concede a lot of goals last season. But I think they have enough firepower in them to avoid another relegation battle. Especially under John Daly, I think they'll be looking to kick on now. So yeah, I have Waterford in seventh. Moving on to sixth now, and I have Drogheda United in there. Another club like Sligo who always, approach the market very well and build squads who, on paper don't look, the flashiest, but always, punch above their weight. And Kevin Doherty's done an excellent job there over the last, few years. Look at the business that they've done. It's relatively unknown, but players that could definitely come in and surprise us. Buckner's come in from America. Same with Bernie, their two defenders. Mark Doyle's returned to the club as well, who done very well there previously. He's come back from America. Brandon Cavanagh's come in from St. Pat's as well. He was a good player. Probably just lost his way a little bit of Pats, but look, on his days, one of the top midfielders in the league. They haven't really lost anyone too big apart from Darren Markey, really. I think that was the big one, of course. One of their best midfielders over the last few years, arguably their best. Even, he went to Waterford, like we mentioned, but they still have that pretty solid kind of base at the back that they've had now for a little while. Connor Keeley, Connor Kane at left back, Luke Dennison in goal. So yeah, they have that base back there. That kept a lot of clean sheets. It's possible that they could, potentially for themselves into the top 4 or 5. I just think that the teams above them have a little bit too much. But look, who knows? Maybe they'll continue to surprise people. But I have Drogheda in sixth. Moving on to fifth now, and I have St. Patrick's Athletic. Look, the mood is not very good around Inchicore at the moment. A lot of negativity around the place at the moment. Because that's just come down to the recruitment that they've done. Probably not enough, really, when you look at it. A couple of good signings in there. Max Mata, obviously, a player who has a record of scoring goals in this league. Roman Boyce come in from Derry. That's a pretty good signing, I think. But they've also brought in Zingo. He was a free agent. He was with the club previously. I think he came through the academy. He's come back from Swansea. Ryan Edmondson, a striker, has come in as well. He was playing in the UK. But yeah, it's not really inspiring business from a team who failed last year in terms of not getting into the top 4. They still got a lot of good quality, of course. That's not gone away. We still have the likes of Forrester and a good defence with Redmond and look at their losses. Melia's gone. He was their top goal scorer and probably arguably you could say that they have managed to replace those goals with Max Mata potentially, but yeah, I think their squad has gotten slightly weaker, and I just think the teams that were above them last year will be above them again just because they've done better business. So yeah, St. Patrick's Athletic in fifth. On to fourth now, and I do have Bows. I think we've had a really good window. We spoke about that in the last few videos. And Patrick Hickey, Sam Todd, Ryan Burke, Hugh Martin, Diallo, Dara Power, Senan Mullen, Paul Walters, Harry Vaughan. plenty of options now, especially in the defence. We've really bolstered our options back there, which was needed really because towards the end of last season we were conceding some silly goals. Improved the midfield as well. McMahon has come back from his loan from Sligo, with Diallo's come in. I suppose the only real issue maybe is that are we still going to be a bit blunt in attack? You'd hope now that once Douglas James Taylor could come back from the injury he has at the moment, that he'll start firing more consistently. Colin Whelan as well, hopefully he'll get some more opportunities. But I really like the look of our team on paper. I think we've done some great business. Obviously, the main loss was James Clark, but other than that, no one too important has really left. I suppose, the only others you could really think of in terms of their leadership was Bucko and Cornwall and Talbot. In terms of the quality within the squad, I think it's gotten better from what we had last season. And look, I think we're in a good position to potentially push into the top three. I think it'll be tight. But I just think that the teams above us probably just have that bit more depth, that bit more quality in certain areas. So yeah, I have us in fourth, and look, I think I'd take it if, as long as I guaranteed another season of European football. So moving on to third, where I have Shelburne. They had a great second half the last season. Once stuff went and Joey O'Brien took the reins, they went on a great run of form. They were winning games in Europe and managed to push themselves into the top three when it looked unlikely that they would actually get into Europe. They've also done some good business. Casey, a centre back, has come in from Cliftonville for quite a lot of money as well. Freitas, a Portuguese striker who is quite unknown, but we'll wait and see if he gets on. Lundgren, the midfielder from Sweden, Connor Walsh, goalkeeper from Sligo, Morris, the left back. They made that move permanent. And just before I jumped on to make this video, they made quite a major incoming in bringing back Will Jarvis. So yeah, that's a serious bit of business. He was a great player for them when he was with them on loan. And look, we still have plenty of other quality as well that we haven't mentioned. Harry Wood, who had a great second half of the season, along with the upturn in form. I suppose the only concern maybe is did he have enough goals on the bench? He blows hot and cold. He probably hasn't, managed to get a consistent run of form in terms of scoring goals together yet. But look, maybe this season he'll catch fire. Who knows? But yeah, I think they've got a really good squad. Be wanting to carry on, the second half of the season form from 2025. They should have no problem finishing in the top four. So yeah, Shells in third. Moving on to second place now, and I have a team in second who a lot of people are predicting to win the league. I just don't think they're quite there yet. Look, I think they probably arguably won the transfer window. They made some serious additions, but I do have Derry City in second place. Yeah, I think they probably had the best window out of everybody. Look up at the business that they've done. James McLean is obviously the big one. That's the one that everyone's talking about. No, he'll no doubt bring some experience and plenty of quality too. James Clark, of course, much to the annoyance of ourselves. That's a really really great bit of business that's kind of gone under the radar, I suppose, with the James McLean signing. Darren Mark, he's come in from Drogheda, a great player. Patrick McLean from Sligo, a really solid centre half. Another solid centre half, and Rob Slevin's come in the door as well. Ollie Yinka from Waterford. They still have other players as well, of course, like Michael Duffy and Akinyemi, a striker who was quite a handful when we played Derry in the second half of the season. So yeah, look, there's it's a squad jam packed, full of quality, but I just wonder, do they have the kind of know-how to get the job done and get over the line and win a title? Derry have been here before over the years where they've had a really good window and then just not really shown up in seasons and taking that step further and win a league. So that's the only real concern for me. But look, they definitely have the squad to go and do it. But let's just see what they're made of. I forgot to mention another signing here that I think is very good. Josh Thomas, a striker, has come in from Swansea. He was on loan at Drogheda. If they can take it a step further now and go and win a title, but I don't think they'll quite do that just yet. So moving on to first place, and yes, regrettably, I do have Shamrock Rovers in first. I'd obviously rather they didn't win the league, but I just think that they have that bit of know-how that Derry don't. They still have all their experienced players who have been with them throughout the years, throughout the success. They've also made some pretty, solid additions, I guess. Just pulling up their business here. Not many marquee signings, but players who can definitely come in and make an impact. Adam Brennan, a young player from UCD, who's quite highly rated. Jake Mulroney, look, a player who a lot of Pats fans were happy to see the back of, but I wonder, could we have another kind of Danny Grant situation on our hands here where, a player who left the club where the fans were happy to kind of see him go, and then he goes and turns into a completely different player at Rovers. So wonder could Mulroney do the same thing? Let's wait and see. And the Stevens has come back to the club after, plenty of years over in the UK playing in the Championship and the Premier League. He'll bring some serious experience that'll already add to the vast number of players who have that experience. I suppose Josh Honan was the only loss really. He's gone to Lincoln. But Jack Byrne has come back from his loan in Dubai. That could almost be like a new signing if you want to think of it that way. I just think that they have that experience. They won the double last year. That their tails will be up again this season to achieve more success. Look, I hope they don't do it. Of course, I'd rather they didn't. But look, you have to factor in, what I said about the experience, to see what happens. I could be completely wrong, but for now, I do favour Rovers over Derry at the moment. So yeah, there's my predictions. Let us know what you think. Do you agree? Do you think fourth place would be, a reasonable finish for us? Is there anything that you would change? Let us know in the comments. Stay tuned tomorrow as well. I'll have the 2026 Bowl season preview coming. Discussing the game coming up on Sunday in the Aviva, and what kind of shape we're in heading into the season. Like, subscribe, share, comment down below your thoughts, like I said, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.